Percentages converting from fractions and decimals with number chips. This is the holiday version. So it starts out just explaining what a percentage is. It's a comparison out of 100. So 45% would be 45 out of 100. And they can just see some simple conversions here. 56 hundredths as a decimal will be written 56 hundredths as a fraction, which would be 56%. And then one whole would be 100 out of 100 or 100%. Now, the first slide students are going to be working on is pretty simple. It's a good place for students to practice moving these number chips. So every slide has all the numbers they need. So that means when they get to the end of a slide and the numbers aren't working, they know they've made an error and they need to go back and check. So again, these are very simple. So 12 hundredths, 12%, 59 hundredths, 59%. One whole would be 100%, and so on. Now, another method for converting a decimal to a percentage is to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So they can see, for example, 62 hundredths would be 62% if they move that decimal point 2 places to the right. On this one, 1 and 74 hundredths would give them 174%. And then if there's no number there, but they still need to move that decimal point 2 places to the right, they have to add a 0. So that would make that 30%, not 3%. So the next slide, students are going to be doing that. They're going to be moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. So the second one, again, there's no number there, so they have to add a 0. So this would be 70%, and then this one would be 7%, moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. So you've got 65%, and then this one, 6.5%, and so on. Now, to convert from a fraction to a percentage, students need to get 100 in the denominator. That's the first method. To do that, they have to multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number in order to get an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. So here, if they multiply numerator and denominator by 5, that gives them an equivalent fraction of 45 hundredths, which would be written as 45 hundredths as a decimal, or 45%. So the next 3 slides, students are going to be doing that. They're going to be converting their fractions to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. So here, if they put the 100 here, they know they have to multiply times 5. That means they also multiply by 5 in the numerator. That would give them 30 hundredths. As a decimal, lost my place here. As a decimal, that would be 30 hundredths, or 30%. So the next 2 slides, same thing. Students are going to be converting their fractions to equivalent fractions with 100 in the denominator, change it to a decimal, then change it to a percent. Now, sometimes they can't directly convert that fraction to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. So they may have to simplify first. So for example, 18/40ths, if they simplify by dividing the numerator and denominator by 2, they get 9/20ths. Now they can convert it to a fraction with 100 in the denominator by multiplying numerator and denominator by 5. Then they just convert to a decimal and to a percentage. So the next 2 slides, that's what students are going to be doing. They're going to be simplifying first. So here, 6/15ths. If we divide the numerator and denominator by 3, we get 2/5. Now I can convert it to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator by multiplying numerator and denominator by 20. That would give me 40 hundredths. 40 hundredths as a decimal. And then 40%, and so on. So this slide and the next one, that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be simplifying first, then converting to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. Write that as a decimal, change it to a percent. Now, sometimes you can't convert your fraction to an equivalent fraction with 100 in the denominator. So here I can't simplify. I can't multiply 8 times anything to get 100. So I have to use long division. Now, fractions are division, so 5 divided by 8. And this just gives them an example of how that works. They end up with a decimal answer of 625 thousandths. They move the decimal point 2 places to the right. They get a percentage of 62.5%. So the next slide, most of the division is done for them. They just need to get the answer here. So 1 divided by 8. 8 goes into 10 one time, which is 8. Subtract, they get 2, bring down a 0. 8 goes into 20 2 times. 8 times 20 is 16. Subtract, bring down a 0. And 8 goes into 40 5 times. So they get a decimal answer of 125 thousandths. Now they want to move their decimal point 2 places to the right to get a percentage. This percentage point is movable. So they want to move that into the correct place. They get an answer of 12.5%. The very last slide, they're going to be doing all the division themselves. We have 7 divided by 8. And then again, make sure they move that decimal point into the correct place in the answer. So this is a digital lesson on converting to percentages from fractions and decimals with number chips. This is the holiday version.